Today's webinar is entitled Top Tech Trends in Materials Handling, presented by Lori Bowen-Ayer. Lori is a nationally recognized expert in automated materials handling, RFID, and open source library system software. Since 2000, she's worked with a wide variety of city and county libraries and consortia in the areas of materials handling, delivery, workflow optimization, RFID, resource sharing, and emerging technologies. I'm now happy to introduce Lori Ayer.
Hi, everybody, and happy Valentine's Day. What better thing to do on Valentine's Day than talk about library materials handling? That's what I think. But it's not always good news when we're talking about materials handling. If you have a back room that looks like the background of this screen, you're probably not going to be very happy. Or maybe this is what your workroom looks like. I know librarians think that materials handling means book carts, but I'm here to expand that concept. So hopefully we're going to have some nice options for you today. My goal is to find or to share with you some solutions for materials handling that address small library environments. So the kinds of things we're going to be talking about start at the most basic. We're not going to talk book carts, but we will talk book drops. Just briefly. Then I'm going to get into what we typically think of as AMH. That's automated check-ins with sorters on the back end side. We'll also talk about dispensers and kiosks, which have been kind of the hot latest thing. I'm also going to talk briefly about sorters as they pertain to interlibrary delivery, and then I'm going to give you a little update on what's new and hot in the materials handling space. But since this thing is called trends, let's talk quickly about what the trends for materials handling are. Here's the big trends. One, all the AMH stuff is getting cheaper and cheaper all the time. This is really great news. It's almost like it's half the price it was a few years ago. The prices have just really dramatically come down. That's one of the reasons I really wanted to do this webinar, is because I wanted to make sure that some of the smaller library systems and places with smaller spaces knew that there was an option for you. The other really great trend is that the quality of these products is going up. So a lot of the vendors who were selling products that I considered like tinker toys, they now are looking like nicely engineered, finished products. So that's very good news. We've got a good market out there for materials handling in the library space. So I guess one of the reasons that the prices are going down and the products are going up is because, in fact, the marketplace is settling out. Some of the vendors that were selling products are not really selling products so much anymore. Another vendor has gobbled up all of the competition, so that leaves fewer competitors out there. And I'll give you a list of the players in this market a little bit later, but it's a little bit smaller than it used to be. Another trend is these kiosks, these walk-up things. Library A Go-Go is the one that we, of course, all know here in California. These are definitely filling a niche, but they aren't quite ready for prime time yet, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And I want to share this last one and make it really a strong point, and that is that the automated check-ins are kind of like the new checkout, or is it checkout? Yeah, automated check-ins are the new checkout. Everybody should have an automated checkout system at this point in their library, unless you're a really special kind of place. And I'm even going to say that it's becoming standard that you should also have automated check-ins, and those should have 3-bin sorters on the back side of them. So we're going to talk more about all of that, but these are the trends that I see heading our way, or we're in the middle of, I should say. All right, let's talk about the most basic materials handling thing. That's book drops. How do you know when you need more book drops? Well, here's a good picture that gives you a clue that maybe you might need more. One of the nice things about using about book drops is they give you a way to accumulate material when you can't get to it. So the problem is, you know, your typical book drop is you can hold maybe 500 items or so. So one of the things that I've suggested to some libraries in the past that has nothing to do with automation is to simply add book drops around town. One of the first libraries I observed doing this was Charlotte Mecklenburg. I know that New York Public does it also. But why not drop a bunch of book drops around town at great locations where it's easy for people to return things, and add those book drops to your delivery schedule so that they get picked up every day. This is a great way to reduce the pressure on the people in the library who, you really don't want to come in every Monday to a scene like what I shared before on that picture. That's just demoralizing. So if you can use book drops as a way to kind of hold things until you can get to it, that's a really good idea. You can just, if you don't want to put them around town, just at least put an extra one outside so people can drive up to it. Book drops are in the $2,000 range, so this is a pretty low-cost solution that really can help make life easier for everybody, even though there's the hassle of bringing the stuff in. I think the demoralization factor is even more important. So let's get right into the automated section of materials handling. The biggest bang for your materials handling buck is, in fact, automated self-check-ins. And that is primarily because the items get checked in before even your customer walks through the door. They come off their record. They can start anew. They're not going to feel compelled to take their big stack of books to the staff station, say, please, please check them in, so it's less hassle for your staff. It completely eliminates the check-in process from the staff workflow, which is a huge, huge benefit. I think that they only make sense when you do have sorters on the back end because they're going to do some critical steps for you, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's just talk about some of the variations in an automated check-in. First of all, you can put them any number of places. You can put them inside, outside, on the wall. You can replace book drops with automated check-ins. You can put them in foyers, or you can put them, right near the service desk. They have a lot of different variations in terms of how they can be accessed. Some you push a button, some you put your library card under the barcode reader, some you can just scan a library item. So there's different ways that you can restrict access or not. You can also make them pretty much open doors. They also vary in terms of how they induct items. My favorite is the one-at-a-time induction method, which works with either RFID or barcode. So you, slide one item in at a time. I don't think that's too much work for the patron, and the benefit is each item for sure is verified as checked in, and usually the one-at-a-time induction systems also have a receipt option for the patrons, which the patrons love. If you really have high volume returns, you can allow people to dump them in. Some of the vendors provide what they call a deshingler. TechLogic is famous for this. So you allow the patron to dump their stuff in, and then the conveyor separates the items so that they can be checked in one by one. Two problems with that. One is the patron, if something doesn't work, they don't necessarily know it. And the other thing is it adds about 3 or 4 feet to the conveyor size on the back side, so it's not really a good solution for a compact. So that's why I like the one-at-a-time feeders. Also on the patron interface, they can be touchscreen, or some of them are some of the lower cost products that are being made available now just have a, you just slide it in. So there's no doing anything. It's kind of not quite a whole, but, it's just basically telling you if it worked or not. And, of course, the prices vary based on the number of sort discharges or how you're sorting it on the backside and whether it has RFID or barcode or both. So those are some of the key variations in automated check-ins. These have been being used in Europe for a really long time, and I know that we like to think that we're so ahead of the game, but in fact we are so behind the game when it comes to library automation. It's really shocking. I mean, I took this picture in Denmark several years ago, and you'll see from this picture that, you know, it's a beautiful piece of machinery that is the automated check-in, and there's this beautiful glass enclosed room where they feature the sorter. So the person checks it in, and you can watch the material being inducted and sorting. That's how they've been doing it, and we're just starting to do it now. In fact, if you go to San Francisco Public, you will see a sorter very much like this one with, you know, the whole glass and behind the, so you can watch the process. It's very cool. And I didn't want you to miss it, so I have uploaded a video I took at San Francisco Public up to YouTube, and I provide a link at the end of the presentation, so you'll be able to get to a whole bunch of fun videos. Again, what better thing to do on Valentine's Day? On the internal self-check-in units, these are a couple of the examples that I was just describing. The one on the right, obviously, yes, okay, here's a green light, put your stuff in. Oh, it's a red light, don't put your stuff in. That's about as simple as they get. More sophisticated is the bottom example where the item gets slid across. You can see sort of the line where the barcode is read, and it then gets onto a conveyor and it's taken into the sorter. And so that screen is there to tell you what's going on. I see a question. What's the advantage of auto check-in with sorters? Does it save time, money? Does it require less staff? It sure does save time and money, and it requires less staff. Basically, I was going to say this later, but I'll say it now, and that is that a 3-bin sorter is approximately equal to 1.5 FTE. So you are reducing the number of people that need to be in the back room, even with just a 3-bin sorter. And like I said, if the patrons are checking in their own items, then obviously the staff don't have to do it, so they can get on to other more important work with the patrons, and there's plenty of things that they can do. It saves a lot of time because the items are checked in immediately, and the patrons don't have to wait for their records to be clear so that they can borrow more stuff. Patrons love automated check-in, and like I said, I think it's becoming a standard that everybody should really be looking for how they can introduce automated check-in to their environment. Here's a nice example of an external check-in. I really like this. Now, this is a true 24/7 kind of automated check-in. As you can see, it's lit, so you can actually see what you're doing. It's got a beautiful weather-resistant access door. It's really easy to use. It's got a touch screen. You don't see any Post-it notes or taped instructions, so clearly this thing is going to work well for you. I just want to remind you that just like self-checkouts, in the early days we kept forgetting to do handy things like leave a shelf or a counter so that people can put their stuff there. This is a picture of my brother acting as shelf when we were touring some local installations, and this one was a new one that lacks that shelf, and so the patron was standing there trying to deal with all of her stuff, so my brother, being a gentleman, stepped in to help. But it'd be better if there was just a shelf there on the unit. So don't forget that little tidbit. So like I said, self-check-ins are key when they're combined with sorters. And I want to just talk to you a little bit about pricing so that you understand that these things really are very, well, I'm not going to say inexpensive, but they're a lot less expensive than they used to be. In fact, you can get a 3-bin sorter for the $30,000 range. They obviously can go up higher depending on all the pieces, and usually that has the more expensive end has to do with you've got a beautiful touch screen, you've got the nice access door. The induction method is smart in the sense that it's not going to accept something that's not library material. I call it the stink bomb test. So if it doesn't have a recognizable barcode, it's going to keep rejecting it back to the patron. Also, the expandability of the system is a key thing that's going to make a difference in whether it's at the lower end or the higher end of that 3-bin sorter with automated check-in. Interestingly enough, what is not a significant factor is whether it's RFID or not. These things can run with RFID or barcode, and whether you do it one or the other or both, the price doesn't really change a whole lot. So here's an example of a nice 3-bin sorter. This is definitely under $100,000. In fact, it's way under $100,000. I think it's in the $65,000 range. Like I said, according to a study done by 3M, they consider a 3-bin sorter equivalent to 1.5 FTE. This is a nice product by Lingso, and you'll see that it has 3 discharges, meaning you're going to sort stuff to either the 2 blue totes or to the big, what they call a trolley. Now, the cool thing about this sorter is you can also take those totes off of that shelf, drop the shelf down, and turn it into a 3-trolley tote. Trolley sorter. So you have a huge volume of material that can be sorted into this thing, for example, on the weekends, so that we don't have that horrible scene from the earlier slide. But this is just one example of a very nice, very simple, but very flexible 3-bin sorter. Cheryl asked, how do they handle books belonging to other library systems? Basically, the different products respond differently. You can set it up so that your automated check-in, if it does not recognize the barcode as one of yours, it will reject it and send it back to the patron. Obviously, those ones that are drop-in automated check-ins don't do that. They just take everything and sort it out to what's called an exceptions bin. But if you have one that will reject unwanted or unrecognized material, it will send it back to the patron, and usually you get to say how many times it's going to reject it before it will either, one option is that you can say reject it 3 times, and then if it's still there, go ahead and bring it in and dump it into the exceptions bin. So this is one of those things that varies quite a bit. What would happen if an item's barcode was scanned but not pushed through the inductor? Well, often these things, the place that they get scanned is it's far enough in there that it's already accepted. So I'm not sure if that would really be a problem. The number of check-ins to gain 1.5 FTE. That's a good question. In other words, how much volume do you need to justify 1.5 FTE? And I'm not sure. I can't give you a number on that. But I do know that there's a good study on the place I got this number is on the 3M site. They have some case studies, and they specifically talk about the volume of the libraries that they were talking about. So I would recommend checking that out. And I can't remember if I put a link to it in the slide. Is there a recommended size? I'm not sure what the size is, so I'm going to just keep going. Maybe, Donna, you can clarify that question. Benefits of the self-check with the 3-bin sort. So I think I've talked about this. Items are checked in before the patron enters so they can start fresh. Check-in is completely eliminated from staff workflow. The reason I'm a big fan of 3-bin sorts, and maybe this is what you're getting at, Donna, I want 3 bins at least, because I want one of the bins to be where all the ready-to-shelve returns go. So basically, that big trolley or whatever discharge unit you're using can go right back out into the shelves Nobody needs to scan them again to see if they're if the media is there. They aren't going to be holds. There's not going to be anything wrong with them. So you definitely want one for ready-to-shelve returns. The other separator you want is for media, and that's because if you put CDs and DVDs dropping into one big trolley and then you have big books falling on top of them, you're going to break all the media. So putting them in their separate place is a really good idea. Then there's the other thing, and that's the exceptions bin or the holds bin. In other words, the bin or the trolley that requires staff to do something. So you may have two bins that you have to do something, media and everything, the exceptions bin, but at least that one ready-to-shelve returns is going to be ready to go. So some of the things to think about when you're choosing that 3-bin sorter are space requirements. A lot of these 3-bin sorters will fit in certainly a 10 by 10 space, possibly even smaller. So 10 by 10 feet isn't real big. Some of the variations I've sort of discussed. Does it issue receipts? Is that an option that the library can decide upon? Maybe they even email receipts. Quiet. Is it quiet enough? Depending on where you're going to put it, you want to make sure that the thing isn't going to drive everybody nuts. All the systems are getting quieter and quieter as we go along, so that's a good thing. Is it UL rated? UL rating tells you that it's safe. I recommend choosing products that are UL rated. And again, this market is getting more sophisticated, and most of the products are now UL rated, so look for that. Does it require all material to be RFID tagged, or can you do barcode? That's going to be something that's important to you. If you use EM security, then that's another feature you're going to have to look for, and that will add some cost. Is it expandable? Can you add more sort points if you want? Can you turn corners with the sort? How versatile is the product? These are all things that make a difference. Also, make sure you know what the maintenance requirements are. How much work do you have to do in between, say, the annual tune-ups, and how easy is it to access what you need to access? Is it easy? Have they planned ahead for that sort of thing? These are all things that you should check for. And the purchase and annual cost, of course. Usually the annual cost is something like 10 to 12% of the purchase price, but double check that. So I'm going to just look at questions here real quick. How big or small, number of checkouts, square footage of the library, does the library have to benefit from this? And again, I'm going to refer you to the study that 3M did, but I don't think it has to do with the square footage, but it certainly has to do with the number of checkouts. But, it also has to do with how many people you have. So, you might not need as many checkouts to see a benefit if you have a much smaller staff. So I can't really give you a good number. My point here today is that chances are, unless you're a teeny tiny little place, you're going to benefit from a 3-bin sorter with an automated check-in. CDs and DVDs that have multiple parts, that's going to be something that gets sorted to either the CD or DVD trolley or the exceptions bin, because you're definitely going to have to check those just like you do now. What about things with multiple pieces that we usually check to see that are all there? Yep, those all go to the exceptions bin or, like I said, to the DVD slot. Okay? I think I'm caught up on questions, so let's keep going. So there's some products that the vendors have put together. I'm calling them the entry-level 3-bin sorters. And this is an example of one. And the reason they're entry-level is because they're taking out things like the touch screen and the receipt printer and not making them expandable. So this product shown here is from 3M, and it's only $40,000, including installation, 1-year warranty, and that regardless of your volume, I mean, this is a great deal. This is cheaper than 1 FTE, so I just can't imagine that this wouldn't be useful to any number of libraries. So that's what the vendors are trying to do, come up with affordable entry-level solutions. Here's another one from Biblioteca. They call it their Smart Sort 200. Again, no touch screen. That seems to be a thing that jacks up the price, and this is in the $30,000 range. So you can't see the sorter, but there is a sorter on the back side of that picture. As I've mentioned, I'm not a big fan of the tube bin products. Here's three examples of them. The Biblioteca Smart Sort 100 is basically being phased out. This is from a legacy product from Biblioteca's acquisition of the ITG product line, so that's going to go away. Libramation, I'm not even sure what they're doing anymore, but that's an example of a tube bin. The only one that I think is worth seriously considering if you really want a tube bin is the MK Sorting book drop. But again, you know, I just don't see them as being very useful. It does require RFID. It's not expandable, but it is quiet, so maybe that's just what you need, but I'd rather save my money and go for a 3-bin. So let's look at some of the small but expandable sorters. Here's one from Envisionware. They call it the Whisper Sort because it is so quiet. In fact, it's under 55 decibels, which tells me nothing. But they say it's very quiet. It can run with barcode or RFID, doesn't need a huge footprint on the back side, and it's quite expandable. I mean, you start here and you can go up to any number of sizes. Biblioteca also has a product line. Again, the blue sorter that you see on the left there is something that ITG was selling, but now Biblioteca is selling, is maintaining, but they're not going to keep that line. So the new products are these gray items on the right. So that's kind of what they're moving towards. And 3M does have an expandable version of their intelligence sorter. It's their FX line, and these can get quite large. 3M has a relationship with Lingso, so that when anything gets too complicated in a sorter, they have Lingso handle it. So if it's like kind of a straight line and it doesn't get bigger than, I don't know, 15 or 20 bins, then you can buy it pretty cheap from 3M. And once it gets more complicated, they refer you to their partner, Lingso, who can do pretty much anything you could possibly want in any space. They're quite accomplished engineers in this market, so lots of great stuff from there. In fact, the famous King County Library System Central Sort operation is a Lingso design, and I'm using it as the example of just how, you know, you can go from 3-bin to this big monster. I also have a video of this up on YouTube if you want to take a peek at it. It's pretty cool. I actually took this picture, and I'm standing on this stand, and it moves around so fast I got dizzy watching it. This thing has 150 sort destinations with room for another 50, and they sort 54,000 items a day. The important thing here is that's all done without RFID. So I just put a little arrow there so you can see the little light shining on the barcode. So there's a lot that can be done. You don't need RFID to do this, and that's why it's affordable. It's one thing to spend maybe $150,000 for your automated self-check-in plus 3-bin sorters, but if you have to spend another $500,000 to tag your collection, it certainly gets unaffordable fast. So you don't need to do that. So I just want to make sure you know that. In terms of tech trends, I'm going to step away from automated check-in and let's move towards self-checkout. I just want to bring your attention to some developments and changes. in self-checkout. Many of you have seen the famous 3MV series, and the V is so that you can put the spine of your book in the right place and it will desensitize the EM strip. Well, the good news is now you can, if you have a V series but you want to upgrade to RFID, 3M is now selling a cute little wedge that fits in that V, so you can convert the V series to something that works just as well for our RFID. They also call that their R series. But these 3M products are excellent machines, although they're pretty darn pricey, $15,000 or so. But they allow you to do all sorts of things on your account, and you can pay fines and fees and that sort of thing. But one of the earliest companies to really develop the full service station is Envisionware. And they started out with having their print and reservation stations. And what they've done now is they've made it possible for you to convert your print station or your reservation station to a full-service self-service station. So if you don't have a self-check machine yet, but you do have an Envisionware print station, talk to them, because you can turn that into a self-checkout machine pretty darn easily and pretty cheaply. Another variation on self-checkout is this thing from TechLogic. They call it the CircIT Combo Station. What this is it's a unit that sits on your service desk. It's got two screens, one for the patron, one for the staff, and it's meant to make it easier for staff to help unblock patrons and do any troubleshooting that is required to ensure that people can do their self-checkout without getting tripped up. So it's kind of a nice idea. Keeps you in proximity to your patrons while still encouraging the self-checkout use. So again, building on what's going on in Europe, this is an example of the latest product line coming out of Biblioteca. Again, Biblioteca is the company that, well, they will be known as Biblioteca again. Right now they're being known as Biblioteca ITG since they just swallowed up ITG, but they're going to go back to the name Biblioteca, and they're just developing a really nice product line pretty much in every possible RFID and materials handling arena. So keep an eye on them. This product is their SmartServe 400. What you're looking at is not a bunch of iPhones, but it's actually a bunch of self-checkout machines. And they're all RFID based, and so the top is the screen. I think it's a touch screen. I'm actually not sure. The center there is the receipt printer, and then that box is where you set your stuff. And by setting your stuff in that box, it causes the RFID reader to pick everything up. So the idea is, instead of using a flat surface where you're not sure where the RFID signal is, they've just designed this box so you just put your stuff in there and it reads the stuff that you need to check out. Wait, so I've got a couple questions here. What about damaged items that you would like to have remain on a customer's account? That's all doable with the sorters. Again, most ILSs and sorters can be configured so that you can keep track of the last checkout or something like that. The barcode has to be on the outside, right? Oh, on the sorters. The barcode does have to be on the outside, and if you're using a barcode, because it's a visual technology, the barcode has to be seen by that eye or that laser beam. So some of these sorters do have the ability to read the barcode either on the top or the bottom, but it still has to be visible one way or the other. Another variation on the Biblioteca self-checkout machine is their SmartServe 400, with the attached payment doodad. So this doodad actually connects directly to the machine, and it looks very nice. And it accepts credit cards, debit cards, and cash, and offers change. So it's actually just a kind of a slicker version of something we've seen before, but I do think it looks nice and is worth taking a peek at. Here's a brand new, pretty cool thing from TechLogic. This is their mobile self-checkout application. So the concept here is that you install on your Android, BlackBerry, iPhone, or Windows Mobile smartphone the mobile checkout application, and then you can walk around the library checking out your stuff. And you use the camera on the smartphone to scan the barcode, and this allows you to check out the item. It does require you to stop by the security kiosk to turn off security, but all that requires is to set the stuff on the shelf. The RFID tags are red, and it recognizes them as checked out to you, and so off you go. So that's pretty cool. That was just debuted in New Orleans, so you may not have had a chance to see that yet, but that seems to be gaining traction. All right, I want to shift gears here to talk about media dispensers. So there's really only a couple dispensers I'm going to talk to you about, and one is the Smart Dispenser 200. As you have noticed, perhaps the Biblioteca theme is Smart this and Smart that. So Smart Dispenser 200 is really the ITG Disk Express product. It holds 500 disks in each tower, and it's expandable quite a bit. In fact, this is the base model, and I think I had a price. Yeah, the base model is something like $13,500, but you can expand this puppy quite a bit. So that's now we're getting closer to the $30,000 range for this. But each tower holds 500 disks. So that's a lot of disks there. The nice thing about this is it handles multi-part sets very nicely. In fact, if you, for example, want to check out a book on DVD, it will actually spit out 5 disks at a time, so you don't have to do the transaction 5 different times. It will actually work on pulling all the right disks out for you. So the idea here is that you have the case out in the library on display, and then you come here to do your checkout, and it just issues them for you, and you put them in your case. On the staff side, you can put these units on the service desk, and these are designed to be dispensed by the staff. This stack of 4 that we're looking at holds 600 disks, and you can daisy chain those together up to 3 stacks can be all daisy chained together for a total of 1,800 disks. This stack of 4 that I'm looking at is that's the base unit. That's about $5,000. I don't know. I'm not so sold on that kind of thing, but I just wanted you to know about it. I think this is actually the LAT Stena product that's being again resold through Biblioteca. Katie mentions that I didn't mention PV Supa. What about them? PV Supa is out there, and they have good sorters and automated check-ins. They don't have a big presence in the U.S. yet, so I guess if for my money, I'd be looking at some of the other vendors, like I said, the Lingso, the Envisionware, the TechLogic, the Biblioteca, who's taking over the world, and I'm not sure that there's a good reason to go with somebody who's just trying to get their foot in the door out here when there's so many other good products and companies that already have representatives in the area. Are there any energy cost estimates for AMHs? I don't have an answer to that question. It's one of those things where it's not nearly as big a cost or energy hit as it used to be because of the technology and how much it's improving, but I don't have any specific information about that. Let's talk about kiosks. So the price range for these kiosks is $135,000 to $200,000. We have a few of them here in California. One of the first ones that I know of is the Millbrae BART station, I think, and this is from MK Sorting. They call it their lib dispenser. This thing holds 500 books and comes in a couple different models. This one here in Millbrae has the 2-screen model. The advantage of having two screens, as you can see, one says selection and the other one says pick up and return. So you can have two people, using it, one browsing and one getting the thing that they want. It also has a lot of versatility. It allows you to access the OPAC, so you can actually use it in a more full-featured way if you want to, but that's flexible. The other one that's here in California is at the Alameda Free Library, and they say it holds 420 to 500 items. It kind of depends on what you're putting in it. If you're putting in more CDs or DVDs, then it will hold more items. But in terms of books, it's somewhere around 500. They use it as a walk-up service only. They found that it was too confusing for patrons to have the two screens. So basically, you walk up to this thing and you can browse what's in the box and then check out what is in the box. So that's how they're using it. So sorry, there's another question. What DVDs that get returned with the DVD inside, how is that dealt with? DVDs that get returned with the DVD inside, you still have to check media with sorters. So there's kind of no getting around it. If you're a library that checks media at check-in, you're still going to have to check them with a sorter, and it's just a matter of routing the things that need additional handling to the right sort location so that they can be separated from the things that can just be put right up on the shelf. And in terms of checking media for these things on these kiosks, I guess the way these work is some of them will accept returns for items that were not dispensed here. For example, if I took out a CD from the San Mateo County Library or whatever, and then I returned it to the kiosk, I probably can decide if it is accepted or not. But obviously, if you do that, then you don't have the opportunity to check the DVD. So that might be one reason that you would or wouldn't choose to use media in these kiosks, because there's no way to check the media. That's a configurable option for you, whether you allow it to accept items that were not originally from the kiosk. Another product along the same lines is the eVanced Branch Anywhere. There are none in California that I know of. In fact, their first customer just went live last month. It doesn't hold as many books. It is a 24/7. Actually, the MK Sorting system and this one are both RFID required. So this is one situation where RFID really is required. And this one is more, has a few less options. They are really servicing the walk-up customer only. So it's more like the Redbox style. They're not providing you with the ability to browse all of the library material. They're just expecting you to come up, look at what's in the box, and take something, and then return them to the same box. I have to say that I talked to the customer that has just recently gone live with this product, and they are in love with eVanced. So if you're looking at kiosks, don't neglect to check these folks, because at least from the customer service perspective, they're getting high marks. Boco-Motton is another product that is by a company called Distech, and they are, like MK Sorting, they are not from the U.S. Actually, that's Evanced is a U.S. product, MK Sorting is not, and Boco-Motton is not. This one you'll all know from the Contra Costa's Library A Go-Go program, and they have, I think, at least a couple, if not 3, live. These guys really broke new ground with these products, and we need to send them all a big, big thank you, because they really worked out a lot of glitches along the way. These things hold about 400 items, and they are pretty full-featured. You can, what was I going to say? I think these are ones that you can browse and return items from anywhere. But again, these are all more configurable, kind of like the MK Sorting product. What Contra Costa was trying to do was reach out to a new customer base. So they put these things in locations at BART stations where people generally had to go at least 20 miles to get to a library service outlet. The customers love them. So they've been a big hit. They've ended up signing up lots of new library card holders, but I do know that it hasn't been an easy process. So definitely talk to the Contra Costa folks about what to watch for next time if you're interested in this approach. I do think those things are going to catch on, though. So I don't know what happened to my picture, but the Brodart Lending Library is basically a candy dispenser, and these do not accept returns. I don't know if you saw them. They've been at the ALA in Midwinter. They are also a big hit with the customers. The thing I don't like about them is that since they don't accept returns, that means that you are constantly having to go out there and refill them. So they're a bit of a heavy workload for the library, so make sure you put them in a place where you can get someone every day, because you need to keep them filled up so that they look interesting and exciting. But they are quite a bit cheaper, whereas those other ones are all over $100,000. The lending library is more in the $20,000 range, so that's pretty good pricing. I'm going to answer a couple more questions here. Our self-checkout machines still do not read at least 1 out of 10 items. How would that affect these? I'm not sure how to answer that. Sorry, since these, I don't know what people are talking about, any stats on how popular they are. I'm not sure what they are. And can they return the books media at these red box type kiosks as well? That is whether you can return something to the red box type kiosks is really up to you. I think the Evanced one may not allow you to return anything that was not dispensed from the library anywhere or branch anywhere, whereas the MK Sorting and the Boco-Motton, I think those are configurable by the library. Can you have 3M self-checks and gates and a different company's check-ins and walk-up checkout kiosks? Can company products be mixed? Yes, you absolutely can mix products, and I'm going to talk about that later. There is absolutely no reason that you should have to stick to one product for all these things. You should feel free to mix and match. So let's talk about some brand new stuff. And there are a few things. Somebody wants to know the stats of how popular red box type kiosks are. Not really, because they haven't been out long enough, but I do know from just kind of the anecdotal evidence that the general feeling is patrons love them when they work. So once they get them working more consistently, I think that that's going to be an area that a lot of people are going to be looking at extending the reach of the library out through these things. But maybe sit tight for a little longer and see how that shakes out. Here's something that you've probably never seen. It's called the Smart Stock 500, another Biblioteca. I don't know if it's an acquisition. I'm pretty sure they didn't create it. But anyway, it is something they use, again, in Europe that we've never seen here that I know of. If you answered the RFID survey, you saw reference to it. It's the RFID tunnel. And what this is it's this big RFID reader that allows you to take all of your material that comes in from, Baker and Taylor or whomever, and you just stick the whole box of newly acquired material in there, and it reads all your tags. So this is something that is looking forward to the day when our material is tagged by our book provider. So just keep an eye out for that. And obviously that is an RFID-specific thing. Here's another RFID-specific thing that's new and exciting. This is something that fits onto your existing bookshelf. So if you imagine there's your wood bookshelves, and you take this thing and you kind of fit it over the back shelf, it's an RFID reader and antenna system. So all these things that look like glass panes are actually antennas that are able to pick up the tags that are on the shelf. And each antenna is kind of like an access point in the sense that it is associated with a specific location. So you put these on all of your shelves, and there's a reader at the end of the shelf that actually communicates with your ILS via an Ethernet connection. So this is all connected to your network. In fact, it's powered by Ethernet, so you don't actually have to plug it into an outlet. And this is a way to help people look for items. Like you can actually search for an item in the library, and they have an interface that looks like that cover flow kind of interface, so you can actually kind of shelf browse. But the really cool thing about this is that it's telling you where the thing really is, not where it's supposed to be. So this is a game changer. If this is something that we can start seeing in libraries, I think this could really make a difference in one of the huge benefits of RFID, because this is obviously something that would not work with a barcode system. Price point at this point, they're looking at something like $250 per 3-foot shelf section, which includes the reader and all the antennas and the fitting and all the Ethernet connection and all that kind of stuff. So it's still pretty pricey, but if you were, building a new library, I'd be looking into it. So something to check. The other thing I want to make sure everybody knows about is what's coming with RFID standards. This does have an impact on materials handling, and it's going to kick off its own set of trends. I talked about it quite a bit in the EduLibrarian open source and RFID update, and my slides and my notes are available at the URL I've provided there. Also, any presentations I do, I keep uploaded on my website at galicia.com/presentations if you ever want to check those out. Just real quickly, a new standard was established by ISO, which defines how you organize the data on the RFID tags and how you encode it. The point of this is we can now actually become interoperable. So to get back to that question that someone asked about mixing and matching all of these products, it's not been possible if you were doing it with RFID. But now that we have this standard, and if we all agree to go by the ISO recommendation, which is likely to be, it's not quite final yet, but it's likely to be 28560-2. Once we do that and we make all of our RFID vendors also comply with 28560/2 or -2, then yes, you can be interoperable. Everybody will be able to use the same communication and encoding method, and that means you will be able to mix and match your products, and you won't be tied into a vendor, And it also means that there's more cool things that you can do with your RFID tags, such as central sorting. This is something that I think is an area that there's a lot of opportunity to make a huge difference in your materials handling world. So basically, when you sort material in a central sort facility for interlibrary loan type stuff, or just getting it around from branch to branch, one of the things I'm seeing opportunities for more and more is to completely eliminate the routing slip. And you can do that by having the barcode read at the central sort facility. So thinking back to that picture that we had of the King County gigantic sorter, basically King County doesn't put any routing slips on those 54,000 items a day that are being sorted. They just throw them in a bin, and that sorter says, oh, I recognize your barcode, and I see that you are going to this branch to fill a hold, and so it sorts it accordingly. Anybody can do that, and you don't need a big fat sorter to accomplish it. In fact, you can even do it manually. And there's an article that I was one of the authors of, along with Greg Pronovitz in Massachusetts, where they're actually implementing a very cool system that will make it so that none of the Massachusetts libraries need to put on any routing slips on any of their materials that move all around the state, and they're doing it without a high-speed, with a super equipment-intensive sorter. What they're doing is using what's called sort to light. So they'll still be having, in the central sort operation, someone will be reading the barcode off each item, but they'll be doing it with a handheld scanner that reads that barcode. And then what happens is a light displays over a bin telling that person with the handheld scanner where to put the item. So that's why they call it sort to light, because the sorting personnel are actually scanning the barcode and a light shines, and that's where they put the item. So this is a very low-tech solution that can get routing slips eliminated from your workflow, which is huge. So take a look at that article. Again, it's available at galicia.com/presentations, or specifically at that URL I've provided below. The other way you can eliminate routing slips and utilize the new RFID standards is to use the RFID tag for sorting. So if you're on RFID, you can actually work with your vendor so that you, instead of putting routing slips on the item, you just write the location that the item is going to, and explain. There's another field that you can say this is, filling a hold, or this is returning to the home library. But pretty soon, I expect to see a lot of sorting happening on the RFID tag without requiring any connection to the ILS to do it. So that, to me, is a big change coming. I just have to share one new brand new product that just got released at Midwinter from TechLogic. It's their Media Surfer. So yes, this is materials handling. In this case, the material is an iPad. So what they've got now is a system that helps you lend iPads that you've pre-configured in whatever way you want, with whatever content you want, and maybe even they're going to have some special content that they sell with the product. But the cool thing about this is that when the customer returns it to the Media Surfer, everything gets wiped clean, all the privacy issues are resolved, it gets reset to how the library wanted it set up. So they can really use their iPads for themselves however they want, and then safely return them to the library, who can then also use them however they want. So this is a big step forward for lending portable devices. We'll see how it shakes out, but all indicators are promising, so that's exciting. And that's it. I told you I'd give you the YouTube URL, so here it is. I pulled a bunch of YouTube videos together that have to do with topics I've talked about today at that URL. You can also get my presentations, including this one will be posted at glesia.com/presentations, and feel free to contact me. I'm always happy to talk about materials handling. And that's it for today.